In the far reaches of the galaxy, the universe's greatest civilizations flourished, unaware of a forgotten species whose legacy had been erased from history. Captain Zara, a seasoned explorer, had spent her life navigating the vast expanse of space, unraveling the mysteries of ancient worlds and uncovering the secrets hidden within the stars. But nothing, in all her years of exploration, could have prepared her for the discovery she was about to make, a discovery that would shake the very foundation of the galaxy. Captain Zara's research ship, the Stellar Voyager, cruised silently through the outer rim of the galaxy, where few dared to venture. The edges of the known universe were home to strange anomalies, dead stars, uncharted planets, and ancient relics long abandoned. Zara's mission was simple: chart the unexplored territories and collect data on any artifacts that might have been left behind by past civilizations. What she didn't expect was that one simple scan would reveal something that no one had even suspected: a signal. It was faint at first, barely a blip on her radar, but it was unmistakable. Zara's crew, composed of some of the best minds in the galaxy, scrambled to identify its source. After hours of analysis, it was clear. The signal was coming from a planet that wasn't even on the star charts. It was as if the planet had been erased from all records. The mystery was too compelling to ignore. "Captain, you need to see this," Dr. Elias, the ship's lead archaeologist, said, urgency in his voice. He was standing by the communication console, his eyes glued to the screen. "This signal, it's not just a random burst. It's repeating a pattern, and it's coming from a planet we thought was uninhabited." Zara stood next to Dr. Elias, her brow furrowed as she stared at the data. The coordinates didn't match any known star systems. It was a planet no one had ever heard of, yet the signal was clear, distinct, and unmistakable. "It's like it's been hidden on purpose," Zara muttered under her breath. "Let's take a closer look." The Stellar Voyager shifted course and headed toward the coordinates. As the ship moved closer to the unknown planet, the signal became stronger, almost as if it was calling them. Zara couldn't shake the feeling that this was no ordinary find. There was something about this planet, something that had been deliberately kept from the galaxy. When the Stellar Voyager entered orbit around the mysterious planet, the crew was taken aback by its eerie, desolate beauty. The surface of the planet was barren. Its once blue oceans now dried up and replaced by endless deserts of cracked earth. There were no signs of civilization, no cities, no settlements, just empty, forgotten landscapes stretching as far as the eye could see. "Captain, there's something strange about this place," Dr. Elias said, his voice filled with disbelief. "It's like the planet has been abandoned for centuries. There's no sign of life." But he trailed off as he noticed something even stranger. Deep within the desert, barely visible from orbit, were ruins. Ancient structures that had been half buried by sand, their outlines barely discernible in the harsh sunlight. Zara's heart skipped a beat as she realized what they were looking at. "Could this be?" Zara began, her voice thick with excitement. "A human settlement." "That's impossible," Elias replied, shaking his head. Humans were believed to have never existed. They'd been erased from galactic history for millennia. Zara frowned, not entirely convinced. "Well, we're about to find out." The crew descended to the planet's surface in a small shuttle. As they touched down near the ruins, the eerie silence of the planet enveloped them. Zara led her team through the rocky terrain, stepping carefully over the crumbling stones that seemed to whisper of a past long forgotten. The wind howled across the empty plains, carrying with it the scent of dust and decay. The ruins were massive, stretching out over miles of the desert. Towering stone pillars, half sunken into the earth, lined what appeared to be an ancient road, now cracked and broken. There were no signs of life, no animals, no plant growth. It was as if the planet had been abandoned for an age, left to wither in the void of space. "What happened here?" Laura, the ship's historian, whispered, her voice filled with awe as she surveyed the ruins. "What could have caused this level of destruction?" Zara didn't have an answer. We'll have to dig deeper to find out. The team began to explore the ruins, their scanners picking up faint energy signatures buried within the wreckage. As they moved further into the heart of the ruins, they stumbled upon a massive structure, a stone building with intricate carvings and symbols that were unlike anything they had ever seen before. The carvings seemed to depict humanoid figures with large, expressive eyes, and features that were strangely familiar. Elias gasped. This is unlike anything we've ever discovered. These symbols, they match the ancient texts I've studied. They talk about a species that existed before the rise of the galactic empires. But those texts were always considered legends, nothing more. Zara took a deep breath, feeling a chill run down her spine. Could it be? Could this be evidence of humans? Laura's voice trembled, but humans were never recorded in any galactic records. They were erased, forgotten. Maybe they weren't erased, Zara said quietly. Maybe they were hidden, for a reason. The team continued their search, uncovering more artifacts, each one more puzzling than the last. Finally, after hours of searching, they discovered a small chamber deep within the ruins. Inside, on a stone pedestal, was a relic unlike anything they had seen before, a strange metallic device, worn and weathered by time, but still intact. It had an unusual glowing core that hummed faintly. Zara reached out, hesitated for a moment, then took the device into her hands. As she did, a sudden surge of energy filled the chamber. The walls trembled, and the ground beneath them seemed to shift. The glowing core in the device flickered, and a holographic image appeared before them. It was a message, an ancient one, encoded in a language none of them recognized. But as the message played, a strange sensation filled the room, a sense of recognition, as if the message was somehow meant for them. Dr. Elias studied the image closely. "It's a warning," he said, his voice filled with awe. "This device, it's showing us the truth. The humans were once here, and their story." He paused, his face pale. Their story was erased. Suddenly, the message shifted, and a new image appeared, a map of the galaxy, with Earth marked in the center, surrounded by bright lines of light, connecting the stars. The map was ancient, but clear. Earth was not just a myth. It had been the heart of a vast galactic network. But now it was gone, erased, as if someone had intentionally wiped out all traces of it. "Why?" Laura whispered. "Why would someone do this?" Zara stared at the map, her mind racing. The galaxy has been hiding something. Something bigger than we ever imagined. Humans weren't just a myth. They were erased, forgotten, for a reason. The team stood in stunned silence. They had uncovered something incredible, something that would change everything they knew about the galaxy. Humans had once been at the center of it all, but why had they been erased? And who had done it? As the team stood in the ruins, the weight of their discovery began to settle in. They had uncovered the truth about humanity's existence, or at least part of it. But the deeper mystery remained. Who had hidden humanity from the galaxy? And why? As the sun began to set on the barren planet, Zara's thoughts raced. The truth was out there, hidden beneath the surface of ancient ruins and forgotten records. The galaxy had been living a lie. And now, the pieces of the puzzle were starting to fall into place. The stellar Voyager lifted off from the planet's surface, leaving behind the ruins of a forgotten species, their history buried in the sands of time. But Zara and her crew knew that this discovery was only the beginning. The galaxy had been lied to for centuries, and now it was time for the truth to be revealed. The stellar Voyager glided silently through the emptiness of space, the hum of its engines a steady companion to the thoughts of its crew. Captain Zara sat in the command chair, eyes focused on the stars outside. The discovery of the ancient ruins on the forgotten planet had left her with more questions than answers. The truth about humanity, about their sudden disappearance, their erasure from the records, was a puzzle, one that seemed to reach deep into the very core of the galaxy's history. She leaned forward, activating the holo-console in front of her. Data streams filled the screen, but no matter how many times she reviewed the files, they all pointed to the same conclusion. Humanity's existence was deliberately erased. But why? And who had done it? We need to know more, Zara muttered to herself, her eyes narrowing as she stared at the relic they had recovered, the device that had activated the holographic message from the planet's ruins. The strange glowing core of the device pulsed faintly, as though it were still alive, waiting to reveal more. "Captain," Dr. Elias's voice broke through her thoughts. "You should see this." Zara turned to find Dr. Elias standing at the entrance to the command deck, holding a data tablet. His face was pale, and his eyes gleamed with a mix of awe and disbelief. She knew that look. It was the expression he wore when they uncovered something no one was ever meant to find. "What is it?" Zara asked, her voice tense. Elias handed her the tablet, his hands shaking. "It's a map. Not just any map, Captain. It's a map of the galaxy. But it's different. There's something on it, something we didn't see before." Zara studied the map closely. The galaxy appeared familiar, but as her eyes moved over the stars, she noticed a hidden constellation, one that wasn't in any of the galactic charts. It was a dark spot in the map. Earth, where it had once stood, was gone. But something else was there, instead. A cluster of faint dots, scattered across the space where Earth had been. A network of lines connected them, forming a vast web of energy and influence. "This is," Zara trailed off, her voice filled with disbelief. "This is a map of human influence. But Earth isn't here anymore." Dr. Elias nodded, his face grim. "It's as if someone rewrote the map of the galaxy, removing Earth entirely from the equation. This network of lines, these dots, they connect systems that were once under human control. They've been erased, but there's a faint imprint left behind. Someone wanted to make sure that Earth's legacy was buried." Zara turned the tablet over in her hands, looking for answers. Who would do something like this? And why? Elias hesitated. "That's what we need to find out." The stellar Voyager dropped out of hyperspace and entered the heart of the galaxy's most populated sector. The crew had followed the map to a forgotten research station, one that was rumored to have been abandoned centuries ago. But now the station's faint energy signature had been detected. It was still operational, though its communications were encrypted. "This is it," Zara said, looking at her team. "We need to get to the bottom of this. If there's anyone who might know the truth about Earth's disappearance, it's here." The station loomed in front of them, its hull old but intact, floating in the dark expanse like a forgotten relic. As the stellar Voyager docked with the station, Zara's heart raced. She knew this was a dangerous move. They were stepping into a place that could hold the final pieces of the puzzle. But they had no choice. The truth had to be uncovered. The air inside the research station was thick with dust and decay. The crew moved cautiously through the abandoned hallways, their footsteps echoing in the silence. Dr. Laura, the ship's historian, scanned the walls with her device, her eyes wide with wonder. "This place, it feels like a tomb," Laura whispered, her voice reverberating in the cold, empty corridors. Zara nodded, her senses alert. "Stay sharp. We don't know what we're walking into." They reached the central hub of the station, a large, circular room filled with terminals and holographic displays. At the center was a massive data vault, its doors sealed shut by an ancient lock. On the wall beside it, there was a series of carvings, symbols that looked strangely familiar. Dr. Elias stepped forward, carefully examining the symbols. These are similar to the markings we found on the planet. But there's something else here, something I missed before. Zora moved closer, her eyes narrowing, as she studied the carvings. It's the same symbol, the one on the artifact, but it's different. It's a warning. Elias ran his fingers over the symbols, tracing the lines. This symbol, this warning, it's not just about humanity's past. It's about what happened to them, and what the galaxy did to erase them. Suddenly, the room began to hum. The vault's door slid open with a low mechanical sound, revealing the contents inside. What lay within was a treasure trove of ancient data, encrypted files, and forgotten knowledge. The entire history of humanity, locked away for centuries. "This is it," Dr. Elias said softly. "This is the truth." Zara approached the vault and activated the terminal. The holographic display flickered to life, revealing a series of files labeled with dates and titles, each one representing a chapter in humanity's forgotten history. The first file opened, and Zara's breath caught in her throat. The title read, "The Collapse of Earth, the Great Erasure." As the file began to load, Zara felt a chill creep down her spine. What she was about to read could change everything. The file revealed a shocking truth. Centuries ago, humanity had been at the height of its power. Earth had been the heart of a vast, galaxy-spanning empire, with influence reaching across dozens of star systems. But humanity's rise was not without enemies. A coalition of powerful species, jealous of humanity's dominance, conspired to erase them from history. Their weapon was not physical. No, it was far more insidious. The coalition of species had created a virus, a genetic virus, that wiped out all traces of humanity's existence. It was engineered to erase humanity's DNA from the galactic archives, to scrub every record, every mention, and every image of humans from existence. But there was something else, something darker. The virus had also been designed to eliminate the genetic markers that would have led to humanity's resurgence. Zara's eyes scanned the data, her mind reeling. They didn't just erase humans. They destroyed every record, every trace. And they engineered it so humanity could never return. Laura stepped forward, her voice trembling. But why? Why go to such lengths? Dr. Elias's face was pale as he processed the data. Because humanity was too powerful. They were the glue that held the galaxy together. But that power made them enemies. The galaxy's leaders feared humanity's influence. They believed if humans were allowed to remain, they would dominate the galaxy once again. Zara clenched her fists. So, they erased them, completely. As the crew delved deeper into the files, they uncovered the full scope of the conspiracy. The coalition that had orchestrated humanity's downfall had succeeded in hiding Earth's existence, but they had also left behind traces that Zara and her crew had now uncovered. But this knowledge came at a price. The coalition had not only erased humanity, they had left a powerful weapon behind, buried deep within the DNA of every living species. A weapon that could restore humanity to its former glory, and with it, the power to reignite the galaxy's struggle for dominance. Zara turned to her team, a fierce determination burning in her eyes. We have to warn the galaxy. The truth about humanity, about their legacy, it can't stay hidden anymore. The galaxy needs to know what they've done. Laura nodded, her expression resolute. The truth must come out. The cold, sterile air of the stellar Voyager hummed softly as it cruised through the dark void of space, leaving behind the forgotten research station that had revealed the shocking truth. Captain Zara, along with her crew, had uncovered more than they ever anticipated. The galaxy had long believed that humanity was nothing more than a myth, a forgotten species wiped from history. But the records, the relics, and the encrypted data they had uncovered spoke of a different story. One of greatness, of power, and of a dark conspiracy that erased humanity from existence. As the ship continued its journey back to the heart of the galaxy, Zara couldn't help but reflect on the weight of the information they carried. They were no longer just explorers. They were bearers of humanity's legacy, its story, its past. And that story was not one of extinction, but of a grand civilization lost to time. Now they had to decide what to do with the truth they had uncovered. The galaxy had to know. But there was more to the story, much more. "Captain," Dr. Elias's voice broke through Zora's thoughts. He was standing in the doorway of the command deck, his face pale and tense. "You need to see this." Zora turned, frowning. Elias had been deeply engrossed in the data from the research station ever since they left orbit. "What is it, Dr. Elias?" He handed her a data tablet, his hands shaking. Zora took it and watched as a new file loaded onto the screen. This one was unlike the others, a detailed record of a galactic network, one that had been maintained long after humanity's disappearance. It was a map of the galaxy, just like the one they had found on the planet. But this one was much more detailed. It wasn't just a map. It was a record of ancient alliances, trade routes, and star systems that had flourished under humanity's influence. "We thought humanity's influence was only limited to Earth and its immediate colonies," Elias said quietly. "But the records show otherwise. Humanity's reach was far greater. They didn't just control a few systems. They controlled dozens. These trade routes, these alliances, they were the backbone of the entire galaxy." Zora's eyes widened. So, humanity wasn't just a species. It was the foundation of galactic civilization. "Exactly," Elias replied. "And it's all been hidden. Buried. Erased." Zora felt a knot form in her stomach. She had suspected as much, but seeing it laid out in front of her, humanity's far-reaching empire, their influence, their power, was overwhelming. The galaxy had lost something incredible, and its disappearance had been deliberately concealed. She couldn't let this truth remain hidden any longer. "How long has this been erased?" Zora asked, her voice steady but heavy with the burden of the information they carried. Elias shook his head. "For centuries. The conspiracy to wipe humanity from existence didn't just take their lives. It took their entire history. All traces were erased. The galaxy's records were rewritten, with humanity's influence scrubbed from every chart, every map, every record." Zora stood in silence for a moment, the weight of the revelation sinking in. Humanity had once been the galaxy's foundation, and now they were nothing more than a forgotten species, an erased legacy. But this wasn't just a tragedy. This was a story of injustice, of power and control, and it was a story she had to share. "We need to broadcast this to the galaxy," Zora said, her voice firm. "The truth about humanity has to come out. People deserve to know what was taken from them. We can't let the galaxy forget again." The crew of the stellar Voyager gathered in the ship's central command room, surrounded by holographic screens filled with encrypted data, ancient maps, and historical records. Dr. Laura, the ship's historian, worked tirelessly to decode the information they had uncovered. It was clear that humanity's legacy wasn't just a matter of ancient history. It was a matter of present danger. "Zora, there's something else," Laura said, her voice quiet. She looked up from the console, her eyes filled with concern. "This map, it's more than just a record of humanity's influence. It's a map of something far more significant." Zora raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean?" Laura gestured to the holographic display. "This network of systems, these ancient trade routes, were built around a core, a central hub, a place of unimaginable power. I've cross-referenced the data with galactic records. It's Earth. Earth wasn't just a homeworld. It was the heart of a larger system, a network that kept the galaxy's peace and balance. But this network wasn't just about trade and alliances. It was about something more, something hidden." Zora stepped closer, narrowing her eyes. "What was it?" Laura hesitated for a moment. "I don't know. But I think it has to do with the genetic legacy of humanity itself. The power that was within them, within their DNA, was tied to something far greater. The galaxy's leaders knew about it, and that's why they erased them." Zora felt a cold shiver run down her spine. "Are you saying humanity had power? A power that could change the galaxy?" Laura nodded slowly. "Yes, the records point to it. But the details are unclear. Whatever it was, it's why the galaxy's leaders feared humanity. And now, it's why we're being hunted. The sudden realization hit Zora like a tidal wave. They weren't just up against a conspiracy to erase humanity's legacy. They were up against something far darker. A force that had been in the shadows for centuries. A force that didn't just want to bury humanity's history. They wanted to ensure it stayed buried forever. "We're not just uncovering history," Zora said, her voice filled with determination. "We're unlocking a power that someone wants to keep hidden, and they'll do whatever it takes to stop us from exposing it." Elias spoke up, his face filled with resolve. "We need to act fast. If what we're reading is true, the galaxy's power structure could be in danger. The truth about humanity, about their legacy, could change everything." Zara turned to her crew. "Prepare to broadcast the truth. The galaxy needs to know what we've uncovered. We'll risk everything to make sure it's heard." The crew worked together, activating the ship's communication systems and broadcasting the encrypted files they had uncovered. It was a dangerous move. Broadcasting such sensitive information could bring the full force of the galaxy's most powerful factions down on them. But Zara had made her decision. The truth needed to be known. Humanity's legacy had been hidden for too long, and it was time to bring it into the light. As the stellar Voyager sent its broadcast into the galaxy, the crew watched in tense silence. They knew that the message would ripple across the galaxy, awakening countless civilizations to the truth they had been denied. But as the broadcast began to spread, something else happened, a response. A dark shadow moved across the galaxy, a presence that had been lying dormant for centuries. The message they had sent had not only exposed humanity's legacy, it had awakened something far more dangerous. Someone was listening. Someone who didn't want the truth to get out. A sudden, chilling message crackled through the ship's communication system. "You should not have done that." Zara's heart sank as the voice echoed through the ship. It was cold, emotionless, filled with the power of ages. The transmission cut off abruptly. "What was that?" Elias whispered, his voice trembling. "I don't know," Zara replied, her mind racing. "But we've just made a powerful enemy." The transmission had been sent. The truth about humanity's existence, its power, its history, and its erasure from the galaxy, had been broadcasted across the stars. The stellar Voyager was silent, its crew anxiously awaiting the consequences of their actions. Captain Zara stood at the command deck, staring out into the dark expanse of space. She knew this moment would change everything, but she had no idea just how much. The galaxy's power structure was about to be shaken to its core. Dr. Elias was pacing behind her, glancing nervously at the console as the messages continued to pour in. The response had been immediate. Factions across the galaxy were reacting to the broadcast, some in disbelief, others in fury. It was a storm that had only just begun, and Zara could feel its power vibrating through every fiber of her being. "Captain," Elias said, his voice tense, "the broadcast has been received across multiple systems. Some are calling it a revelation. Others, not so much." Zara turned to him, her eyes narrowing. "What are we looking at?" Elias pulled up a screen filled with galactic responses. There were reports of mass unrest, protests on several planets, and civil uprisings in systems long dominated by the elite. Some factions, like the Trade Union, which had controlled many of the galaxy's most vital resources, had publicly denounced the broadcast, labeling it a lie. Yet, others, those who had long been suppressed by the powerful entities, were rallying around the truth that humanity had been erased from history. "It's chaos," Elias said. "But there's something else. Some of the systems that receive the broadcast are acting differently. They're reaching out for guidance. There's a sense of unity forming in the wake of this revelation." Zara's pulse quickened. The truth was stirring something deeper in the galaxy, something primal. The message of humanity's greatness, their legacy of peacekeeping and unity, was now a beacon. Zara couldn't help but wonder if this was what the galaxy had needed all along. someone to remind them that they were stronger together, not divided. "We need to move fast," Zura said, turning back to the controls. "If humanity is to rise again, we need to help guide this new wave of unity." Back on the bridge, Dr. Laura, the historian of their crew, had been studying the ancient records from the research station. She was the one who had unlocked much of the mystery surrounding humanity's place in the galaxy, and now she was piecing together the final parts of their legacy. She looked up from her console and met Zora's eyes, her expression filled with a mixture of concern and resolve. "I've been digging through the old archives," Laura said. "The galaxy's leaders knew that humanity's resurgence was inevitable. They just didn't think it would happen so soon." Zora raised an eyebrow. "You think they planned for this?" Laura nodded grimly. "They had to. There's something in the ancient records, a plan to prevent humanity's return at all costs. If humanity rises, they're not just reclaiming their past, they're reclaiming their place in the future. And the powers that erased them are terrified of that." Zora clenched her fists. "They won't succeed. We won't let them." The stellar Voyager quickly re-established contact with several key systems in the galaxy. Zara and her crew, realizing that humanity's history was not just a tale to be told, but a powerful force that could ignite the galaxy's future, worked tirelessly to rally support. The broadcast had made waves, but it hadn't yet sparked the full uprising Zora had hoped for. "We need to bring the people together," Zora said, pacing the room. "We can't let the galaxy fall back into chaos. This message isn't just about humanity. It's about showing the galaxy what true unity can look like. We need to organize the systems, and we need to give them a purpose." Dr. Elias was already in contact with leaders from various systems, some new, some old, but all willing to listen. It became clear that many of these leaders had long been suppressed, their voices silenced by the powerful corporations and empires that had controlled them. The message about humanity's legacy had sparked something in them, a desire for freedom, a desire for change. "We've got traction," Elias said, a note of excitement creeping into his voice. "The rebellion is growing, and people are beginning to see the truth. Humanity didn't just disappear. They were erased, and now it's time for the galaxy to take its place again." Zara smiled, her eyes flashing with determination. "We will bring them together. We will show them that humanity isn't just about the past. It's about the future. We will rise as one." The fight for the galaxy's future wasn't without opposition. As Zara and her crew worked to unite the galaxy's oppressed systems, the factions that had erased humanity's history began to strike back. The Syndicate, a powerful organization that had been responsible for erasing humanity, mobilized its forces. They saw the unification of the galaxy's people as a threat to their long-standing control. "You should have stayed silent," a cold voice echoed through Zora's communication system. It was the voice of Dr. Adrian Voss, the leader of the Syndicate, a man who had long been obsessed with keeping humanity buried in the past. "Now, you've awakened something you can't control." Zora's jaw tightened. "We control nothing, Dr. Voss. We're simply giving the galaxy the truth. Humanity was erased, and now it's time for us to take our rightful place." "You think humanity can rise again?" Voss's voice was filled with disdain. "You're nothing but relics of a past age. We've built this galaxy the way we wanted. Humanity is nothing more than a forgotten myth. Let it stay that way." "Humanity was never a myth," Zara shot back. "And we'll remind the galaxy of that. You're the ones who will be forgotten." Voss's laughter was cold and empty. "We'll see about that." With the Syndicate's threat hanging over them, Zara's crew knew they had little time. The galaxy was ready for change, but they would have to fight for it. As the forces of the Syndicate moved to suppress the uprisings, Zara made her move. She reached out to the people, to the oppressed systems, and brought them together under one banner: humanity's legacy. The first true battle for the galaxy's future began in the skies above a small, yet strategically important system, the heart of the Syndicate's grip on the galaxy. The stellar Voyager led a fleet of ships, each one filled with beings from different corners of the galaxy, united under one cause: freedom. As the battle raged on, the unthinkable happened. Humanity, once thought to be a forgotten species, had returned, and with them, a strength born from the past and fueled by hope for the future. Zara stood at the helm of the stellar Voyager, watching as the battle unfolded. It wasn't just a fight for control, it was a fight for the galaxy's soul. As the Syndicate's ships began to fall back, Zara's heart soared. They had done it. Humanity had finally returned to the galaxy, not as a forgotten species, but as the catalyst for a new era. The last of the Syndicate's fleet retreated, defeated, and with that victory, the people of the galaxy began to rebuild. Zara and her crew had led the charge, but the galaxy's future would no longer be shaped by the past. Humanity's legacy had been restored, but it was no longer a tale of extinction. It was a story of resurgence. As the stellar Voyager made its way toward the next system, Zara stood with her crew, her eyes fixed on the stars. They had won. Humanity had risen. And now, the galaxy was theirs to shape. Together, Zara said, her voice filled with pride, "We rise. Together, we will build a future where humanity's legacy is never forgotten again." And so, humanity's story continued, not as a forgotten myth, but as the foundation of a galaxy united under the banner of truth, freedom, and the indomitable will to rise against the darkness.